Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast, a podcast of people who keep rolling forward no matter what life throws at them. Real people, real stories, powered by purpose, resilience, and a drive that never ends. There's an inside joke there. I'll let you guys figure that out. It has to do with my life. Elliot, maybe if you know, we can talk about it later. But anyway, I'm Zach Sikora. Spina bifida didn't stop me. It just gave me a better excuse to sit down while taking over the world. Today's shirt is, if anybody can see that, it says, "In case of fire, use stairs." And it's a guy in a wheelchair falling down the stairs. It's one of my favorite shirts. I picked it up on Amazon. I'm also creating a store with a whole bunch of different shirts. Unfortunately, this shirt isn't on there, but there's a lot of other funny shirts that are like this. And you can grab one at rollingforward.printful.me. And if you have a funny idea for a shirt, throw it in the comments and it might end up on the store. So anyway, let's roll into today's podcast with Elliot Feltner. Elliot, how's it going? I just want to say real quick, I coach Elliot. Elliot and I met through wheelchair tennis. And he has been, I think, my longest time player so far. So you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, Zach. What's up, everyone? I just wanted to say off top a message of goodwill. I really admire your commitment and motivation to putting the studio together
Thank you.
because I was here when it first started and it was just kind of a splattering of desks, cluttered tables full of monitors and cameras with no real place for them to go. And now it's a well organized, well run machine.
Yeah.
It looks
Hey,
great.
thank you.
Looks
I
great.
appreciate it. I've definitely put a lot of time and effort into this, and definitely owe a lot of people that have helped me out, especially you. You and I have come in here every so often and worked on a couple designs and how to face the camera, the lighting, all that. So
Yeah, it's been fun helping you. It's something I
yeah,
enjoyed doing, and I
yeah,
feel like whatever help I could give, I was glad to give it.
yeah,
It
exactly.
does look nice. These tables are solid. I feel like I can hit the table hard. It'll stay sturdy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's still work to do, of course. There's always gonna be work to do, but hopefully it'll take off and we'll be able to spread a message to the world that is not one that everybody hears on a daily basis, you know?
Sure.
It's kind of my goal. So, okay, so let's get into getting to know you a little bit. So, um, you and I met through wheelchair tennis. Do you want to
I think
share how you got into tennis and like maybe how we met a little bit more?
yeah, when was that? 2019, I feel like.
I think so. Yeah.
6 years ago.
2019, 2018, maybe even. I don't know. Something
Yeah.
like that. It
And
was,
when we first met, and I think this is why we get along still so well, is because I didn't see you as a coach when we first started playing.
mm-hmm.
I saw you as a fellow player,
Yeah.
which I think maybe you were. You
I
would consider
was.
yourself too.
Yeah.
So I see you maybe more as a peer than I do as a coach.
Sure. Same.
So
I
maybe
I feel
I
like that
feel like
with you as well. I don't feel like I'm like over you or anything like that. Like
no,
it's a
but
coach
it's
player
it's
perspective.
it's helped because I've been able to take your advice and
Mm.
use it to my advantage, and I don't feel like you're talking down to me or telling me what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing after practices, you and I like when you're getting out of your chair and untaping your grip, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you, I'll come over there and I'll start talking to you, and like I'll just basically ask for your feedback on like how the practice went, and I really like your honesty because sometimes you'll say that drill went on for too long, but I really like that when we worked on this, and that's helped me become a better coach to everybody. So
Sure, I think that yeah, it goes both ways,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I think just yeah, being introduced to you that way
yeah.
has helped.
Do you have like any memorable story from either practice or tournaments that you'd like to share with everybody to
Well, what comes to mind? I don't know. You do well, so we don't.
Not
There's a
necessarily
few of
with
us.
us, but I mean, just in general. It can be with us, but
Well, no, this was a good moment just because it was a rare moment where you were giving advice. You're so there's a lot of different ages that play tennis with us, with our group, and I just remember maybe this was over last winter. It was at the end of a practice where one of the players in our group who was a teenager was having a tough time, his head was down, and you told him to just let it out, just let out a big scream,
mm,
just kind of vent.
yeah,
And maybe that would help his mentality getting over that hump.
yeah,
And we just sat there. We were inside of the indoor tennis facility,
uh-huh,
and it was just us on the courts. And it
yeah,
was quiet,
yeah,
silent, and
yeah,
we were just all taking turns letting out like a primal scream.
yeah.
And I think everybody felt good after that.
That's awesome.
Um, I
I
won't say names, but you know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
That's funny. I don't remember that, but that definitely does seem like it's par for the course for something that I would do. And yeah,
Yeah,
it
and I
just
think
relieves that aggression and like just kind of I don't know.
well, you just knew what was needed at the time, and
Yeah.
I think that goes to show what you see as a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's silly. It was a silly thing to do too, which is, it was funny.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
on a tennis court and things are very prim and proper on a tennis court.
Right.
And to just let out a scream at that time,
Yeah.
especially for like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid,
Yeah.
it feels good. It's
Yeah.
something you maybe want to do, but you don't.
Yeah,
And
right.
to have a coach give you permission to do that,
Right. Yeah.
it was a good thing, I think, at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's when you bottle things up, and this player, I think, has a tendency of doing, and then like you just get more and more frustrated, more and more in your head, and it's like, hey, listen, let's just release some adrenaline and go forward, you know?
And it comes with maturity too.
Yeah,
Growing up,
yeah,
uh, yeah, there's plenty of analogies with tennis and life. I think that
yeah,
things, something like that, you know, it just makes sense in
yeah,
certain ways.
for sure.
Tennis and life.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you started tennis, how you found it, and stuff like that.
Well, so I was not always in a chair. So I had grown up playing tennis
Mhm.
since I can remember.
Yeah,
I was I guess more into baseball as like a boy.
yeah.
So was my dad. So I guess I would say my dad is the one who introduced me to all this.
Ah,
Um, really any sport with a racket or a bat I
yeah.
was into
Okay.
at first. So the translation was pretty easy to go from swinging a bat as like a 3-year-old,
Yeah,
and then I'm 6, and now hey, here's a tennis racket. Would you like to swing it
yeah,
while we're on vacation or something?
yeah,
So it was really introduced to me that way. It was just like, to me, it was like a vacation sport that I would play with my dad when we'd go to Florida or wherever,
yeah.
and it stayed that way. And it always felt like a recreational sport to
Mm,
me,
mhm,
something I could do for fun, and
mhm.
there was no pressure put
Yeah,
on me playing it
yeah,
because I never played it as an organized sport
right.
until high school
Mhm.
after I stopped playing baseball.
Mm,
Um, and even then, it felt like just like a fun sport that I could play without putting pressure on myself.
yeah.
Um, I did. So even, yeah, probably started around 6 years old, and that was swinging a racket for fun. We lived close to some outdoor courts, and we would walk up to the courts and play there.
Mhm.
Um, and then I would go to summer, like tennis camp in the summers,
Oh,
and that was about as formal as my tennis
okay.
upbringing got. Was like
Yeah.
that. But I could thank my dad maybe more for his attitude in the way that we approach tennis, because he like grew up with John McEnroe,
Oh,
looking up to him.
yeah.
So there's that country club stigma to tennis,
Mhm.
and I think he grew up. He's taught himself how to play tennis. He didn't grow up in that environment.
Yeah.
Um, so he looked up to guys like John McEnroe
Okay.
as a kid and
Mhm.
brought that mentality to
Yeah.
tennis. And then like while he was maybe more around my age was when Andre Agassi was big, and
Mm,
he's like the ultimate rebel of tennis.
yeah.
I don't know how well versed is your tennis knowledge, able-bodied tennis.
Um,
Do you show an interest in that, or you
I
stick to wheelchair tennis?
I mean, I do coach able-bodied players every so often, but as far as like professional players, like I do know John McEnroe. I know a lot of the greats,
Mhm.
but I don't really follow tennis. I will say, well, on Peacock, they had the Paralympics, and I watched almost every single tennis match on that. So
Okay. I wanna say, yeah, was that last summer?
yeah, yeah,
I tuned in for a little bit of that.
yeah.
I remember seeing, I think you recommended there was a Dutch
Mm-hmm.
doubles team with a quad player,
Yeah,
and I watched that, and that was enlightening.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
informative.
So I do want to get into your disability a little bit, but let's go with so you just said quad, and so can you explain that to the viewers?
Quadriplegia?
Yeah.
Well, that's just suffering from, um, I have a loss of function in all 4 limbs.
Yeah.
So that's both arms and legs. Pretty much anything below the chest
Mm-hmm.
does not function as it once did.
You don't have
Um,
feeling in it.
correct. And so that'll affect things like my abdominal strength, core strength.
Yeah.
So I don't have like the strength in my abs
Right.
to hold myself up
Yep.
normally. So you'll see like the way that I set myself up in a chair to play tennis.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to put a TheraBand around my core to keep myself sturdy.
Yeah.
Um, that's just one of the adaptations that I'll make.
So a TheraBand, um, for those that don't know, is just like a stretchy thing that you put around your waist, and as you like lean forward to hit to try to get to a ball or something like that, a TheraBand will basically pull you back up essentially, since you don't have the balance. Now,
Right.
you might also use your arm to put it on your knee and then lift yourself up that way, to an extent as well, because you can't independently bend over and then get back up.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I have to use my arms for a lot of things like that, stability
Okay.
and all that. But the TheraBand's like nice and flexible enough so that I can
Yeah.
move forward, and then also get back up.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
yeah, and another difficult thing about the quadriplegia is it affecting not just the main muscles in my arms.
Yeah.
It's the fine motor skills, the dexterity in my hands and fingers
Right.
that I've lost.
Yeah.
So that can make certain day to day tasks more difficult.
Yeah.
Exponentially, it compounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that'll lead to like things like why I have to wrap my hand
Yeah.
to play.
You taught me a little trick on picking up a tennis ball. Like when you when you have your arm or your arm your wrist bent and then you pick it back up, your muscles automatically bend, or like your joints automatically close. Your fingers automatically close. So that's a strategy that you've used to help pick things up.
Correct. Yeah, that's something called tenodesis.
Okay.
It's in the wrist, and you could just see just the image here. I've got my wrists are thin and hands are pretty bony, and that's just a quality of that's just a symptom of the quadriplegia. I
Yeah.
just can't. The muscles aren't there anymore. They've atrophied. But I do have some movement. But yeah, that tenodesis movement allows the pinch so that I can pick things up like, hey, this Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. No advertisements to anybody that's not paying me, okay?
Sorry. Good stuff.
No, but so you have some motion in your hands. You just don't have full motion in your arms and your hands.
Right. So my injury is it's a cervical injury, so it's high up on the neck,
Yeah.
C7,
Okay.
the seventh vertebrae. So it's just at the base of the neck before you enter the thoracic.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like right there at the cusp of what starts to affect fine motor skills
Right.
in your hands.
Yeah.
So it's tough because I'm like right there on the cusp of where I have some function, but
Yeah.
also not. You can really just see where it ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
It picks back up.
You can
'Cause
definitely see some atrophy in your like wrist and stuff like that, and partially your hands as well. So
and my luckily my upper arms are strong enough and my shoulders and everything. So
yeah.
it's one of the reasons I can get away with playing tennis. And
Yeah.
it's why I can play it and compete and,
So here's the question that everyone's probably wondering. So you don't have full function of your hands. How the heck do you hold a racket?
I've got to tape that bad boy.
You have to tape your racket. So you fully tape your racket, and so I assume you can't. And I know the answer to these questions because we play tennis together. But like, so you can't switch your grip to like a top spin or a slice grip or continental, eastern, western, all that, right?
Right. I'm committed to one grip.
Yeah. And that's
Just
for forehands, backhands, serves. I mean, you name it, you have to have that grip.
just one all-purpose grip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no switching the racket around. It it means I never drop the racket when I'm playing
Yeah.
or have the wrong grip,
Right.
but it does mean I have to just sort of roll with the punches there
It,
and do my best to adapt to the shot with
yeah.
whatever I can do, whatever I can pull off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whether that's a top spin, backhand,
Yeah.
slice, forehand. I don't know. I guess I've just gotten used to it.
Yeah, and you're fairly accurate. You can hit a target pretty well, so it's pretty cool to see. Um, Anyway, yeah. So, anything else from like the tennis perspective? Oh, here's another thing that I like to that we can talk about is so a tennis chair is different from an everyday wheelchair, and a lot of people don't know this, but the tennis chair wheels they're slanted, and that helps you turn a lot faster. The reason you don't use that in a day to day life is because you can't fit through doors and you're a lot wider essentially. So it's not very suitable. So myself and you have to transfer into a tennis chair in order to uh in order to function, or I mean in order to actually play tennis. So can you talk a little bit about like what you've learned over the years as far as how to transfer maybe independently, and how you do that versus maybe how I do it?
Yeah, so I have to do many different kinds of transfers throughout the day, whether that's bed to wheelchair, wheelchair to bed, wheelchair to driver's seat. So there's a lot of different transfers. And the one that takes the cake is the transfer from wheelchair into tennis chair.
Mhm.
That's the most difficult one,
Why?
mostly because the tennis chair does not have brakes.
Mhm.
So it can roll away from you. So that's taken some adjusting where I have to pin the tennis chair up against a wall or any kind of stable surface,
A fence,
a
yeah.
fence on the courts that's
Mhm.
there. And I have to stabilize it in that way so that I can do the transfer with a slide board from my day chair into the tennis chair.
Yeah, so you have to put it up against the fence and then put your everyday chair in front of one of the wheels so that it doesn't roll, and then you have a basically a board that you put from your wheelchair to the tennis chair, and you slide across that board to actually get in.
Correct.
Cool.
And yeah, there is a little bit of airtime between me and the chair where I have nothing behind me and it can feel a little precarious in a way that at first was a little uncomfortable for me, but I've just gotten used to it more and more.
Mhm.
And that's something that feels good to do independently is learning that transfer,
Yeah.
especially with getting my legs right and committing to that.
Mhm.
It's just one less step that I need to rely upon someone when I'm playing tennis.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then I know it's easier to have somebody help you wrap your grip, but I mean you've gotten pretty good at wrapping it yourself. With low functioning hands, how does that work?
Well, yeah, it's something that I've become better at when I'm in a situation where I need to do it myself.
Uh-huh.
Certainly it is easier to rely on, some help when I'm there on the courts. It certainly helps with time
Yeah.
because sometimes time is more of the essence and it's more important just let's get me out there so I can play and get
Yeah.
some exercise in.
Yeah.
But no, I'm capable of doing it myself, and I guess I didn't explain the details of what goes into it, but I'll put a surgical glove on over my bare hand
Uh-huh.
so that the athletic tape doesn't just rip apart my skin,
Yeah.
which I learned the hard way after
Yeah.
the first time trying that it was painful and it was
Yeah.
not the way to go.
Yeah.
So now I'll put a glove on and then keep my hands still pinned up against the racket which I've also put an inner tube tire around the base of,
Mhm.
which gives me more surface area to push on the rim of the tennis chair,
Yeah.
which is another difficult thing for me is because I don't have that grip strength. I sort of have to rely on my palm
Yeah.
pressure
Uh-huh.
or the butt of the racket handle
Yeah.
to get my momentum.
Yeah. That
Yeah, and then once I wrap the hand with the athletic tape, I go through about an entire roll to get that job done. And that's a meticulous process because I've got to keep my, like we talked about, my grip in the right position. Because
mm,
if I start to lose that, if I overwork it, I can, I'll just be hitting top spins into the
yeah.
ground. If I
Right.
open it up too much, I'm slicing the ball past the baseline every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do want to say not everybody has not all quads who wrap their grip have that inner tube, but you found something that works for you. Then the other thing that I think is interesting, another unique thing is you have rubber hand rims. I have just the aluminum ones because I can grip it a little bit better, but that rubber really helps you get traction with as you push and all that.
For sure. That was an upgrade I made maybe 2 years ago.
Mm,
Was getting new rims for my tennis chair. I'd always had those aluminum rims, but I'd even wrapped athletic tape
yeah,
around those, and you might even remember how tattered it looked
I
after
do.
so
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
And I thought that was a good idea. I even took pine tar, which is
Yeah?
like what baseball players put on their baseball bats, and
Oh,
rubbed that on the rim to try to get some grip.
interesting.
But that was sticky and
Yeah,
messy and
yeah,
didn't last more than maybe two times playing.
right.
Um, so the obvious move was to just get a rubber grip, which is what I have on my day chair anyways. It was just something that maybe I was putting off because
Yeah,
it didn't seem that important.
yeah,
But since I upgraded to that, I guess I've felt my speed improve.
yeah, turning
For
them.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. It makes the turning too, like stopping on a dime is a little bit easier now.
Mm,
Um, so it's all that little stuff. And what was I going to say about? Yeah, it's the inner tube tire.
yeah,
I'm looking. I might try to change that up.
yeah,
I think I'm gonna get a new racket
yeah.
um
Good.
soon,
Okay.
and I might as well once I get that racket maybe
Try it
try
out.
without the tube at the bottom
Yeah.
because I think we'll see if I like that because it would give my hand a more natural feel around the racket
Mhm.
handle
Mhm.
um versus now where it's maybe I'm holding it a little wider.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of effect that'll have on my swing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be something to get used to, but I think it's worth trying. And then we mentioned one of the Paralympics in the Paralympics. So there's a quadriplegic division in wheelchair tennis, and one of the quads has like a more extreme, not extreme forehand, but an extreme forehand topspin grip, and he actually sits like 5 to 10 feet behind the baseline of the court, and he serves like he serves like and hits the ball by his knees or maybe just above his knees as opposed to a normal serve where you throw the ball up and hit it out of the air. And I thought that was just kind of cool, or a cool concept, because he can hit a more extreme topspin with that, and really he's pretty limited because he can't hit much slice, but you know.
Yeah, is that it's always a top spin?
Um,
I guess
I think so.
the
I'd have
serve
to
is.
look back. The serve is always
Even what
top
does he
spin.
do with his all the ground strokes are mostly
Yeah, it's
topspin.
top
What's the
spin forehand and
backhand?
backhand.
So he
So,
inverts for the backhand and
mhm,
does it no
mhm.
matter the height? Tough.
That's what I gathered. It's been a minute since I watched him, but yeah, it was a little bit more of an extreme like forehand topspin grip, and then he uses that to hit a
Yeah.
topspin backhand too.
I
So,
wonder if that would I know we've talked about it too on the court about trying something like that
mhm,
because I wouldn't say it's a weakness of mine. My serve, it's certainly consistent
mm,
and pretty accurate, but it doesn't have the pace
yeah,
that most have.
mm,
I know I'd like to play with that more. I know that throwing the toss in ahead of me
mhm,
lets me put more of my body into it,
yeah,
but it also is harder to stabilize myself
yeah,
and get that and execute that
right,
serve.
yeah,
So the pace isn't great, but
right,
it's accurate. So I wonder, yeah, if trying to just put some crazy spin on it with
yeah, yeah,
a top spin forehand
um,
baseline type of shot
yeah,
would work.
yeah,
Is he hitting it high over the net? when he does that?
I don't remember. It's been a year since I
Yeah.
watched him and saw, but yeah.
What
I
was I was gonna mention, speaking of the being committed to hitting the topspin backhand,
mhm.
I've been hitting a new kind of shot that's sort of working for me. And it's like, it's not a topspin backhand, but it's when it's below my knees, I'll lean forward and instead of hitting like a proper open backhand like this, I'll invert
Mm,
and pop it up
yeah.
like a topspin, but it has no topspin. It's more of just like a pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's more of a defensive shot, would you agree?
Yeah, but I guess I'd have to ask someone like a physical therapist what muscle group it works
Mm.
because I seem to be able to get more into it
Mm.
with that motion than when I turn my arm.
Yeah.
I don't know what muscle. It's an upper arm muscle. I don't know if it's giving me maybe I don't know what.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
this motion seems to be better than the
Yeah.
palm up seems to get more behind it than the palm down.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen you hit that shot and it can be good. I'd like to keep playing with that. Maybe we do like a drill where you just do that because normally we don't do those kinds of drills. So I'd like to see it. Like, do you think it's as accurate as like a normal backhand or forehand that you'd hit?
No, but it's always defensive though.
Yeah.
Like I can't do anything other than make it a defensive shot.
Right. 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 Yeah. Well, maybe we
So
can
maybe
drill and
yeah, maybe
do
we could
stuff like
try
that.
that.
Yeah.
I've
Uh.
almost been doing it out of desperation sometimes because of just the position I'll find myself in.
Yeah.
Being low like that and knowing that I can't get to it with
Mhm.
with the palm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, low shots are, I mean, they're hard for everybody, but I think they're hard for wheelchair players as well, especially ones that can't like bend over and get back up and stuff like that. So, anyway, what? So let's get into your disability a little bit. So,
Mhm.
um, what what was like well, okay, so what happened? How'd you get disabled? And like maybe share a little bit about like what was life before and what was life after and stuff like that.
So I was injured in 2016 in the summer. It was a car accident. I was rear-ended by an impaired driver
Mm,
on the highway. I don't know
mm.
if we've ever actually talked about
I,
it in
yeah,
specifics.
I'm not sure. I
But
don't think so.
yeah, so this was almost it'll be coming up on 9 years now.
Mm,
So I had just graduated from college and it was just the summer following. And yeah, I was driving north on 75 and someone on a concoction of drugs was driving
mm.
uncontrollably up the highway and rear-ended me. I didn't see it coming,
Wow.
and I have no real recollection of the day it happened.
Yeah.
Um, but it put me in the ICU for a month
Wow.
in Dayton. I was there.
Wait, real quick before you get into that, do you know how fast the guy was going approximately or
Triple digits,
triple digits? And
over
then
100
and
miles per
and then were
hour.
you going just normal highway speed, like 55, 65, something like that?
Yeah.
And then
So
d yeah, go
it
ahead.
sent me rolling. It was again. I'm only getting this secondhand from
Right,
the events
right.
because I don't remember it. But the car, I was in a Honda CRV, which
Yeah.
let's give our big ups to Honda for
Yeah.
saving my life because
Yeah.
it did. I rolled. I don't know if this is true. People say like 7 times.
Wow. Okay.
What's that about? I mean,
That's a lot of
it's an
balls.
insane story to get
Yeah,
into the details. But once I was hit, that sent me rolling
yeah.
off the highway,
And you stayed in the
and
car?
I stayed in the car,
Mhm.
and the car landed upright,
Wow.
which I think also saved my life. Because if
Yeah.
it had been upside down, who knows what my blood pressure would have done,
Right,
what this and that.
right, going right to your head and all
Um,
that.
his car careened off to the median, the middle of the highway. This was in Middletown.
Uh,
Um, and then he like got out of the car fine, and then tried to flee
wow.
on foot up the
No.
highway. Um, but the people that were behind me nearby
Yeah.
that saw the whole thing happen. One of them was a nurse,
Uh-huh.
and he helped me
Wow.
And then there was also a firefighter following
Whoa.
that stopped and chased down the guy and held
Whoa.
him down.
Wow.
And then, long story short, I had to be airlifted from the highway, from
Yeah.
the side of the highway to trauma center,
Right.
and that was I ended up in Miami Valley Hospital there.
Okay.
Um, and that's where you know a lot of the recovery started to happen.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of it was blurry for me mostly
Sure.
early on. Um, there were a lot of surgeries and a lot of
Yeah.
uncertainty. Um,
So I've heard
yeah,
where people over time regain the memory. Do you still not have like anything, or maybe your brain has put, based on stories people have told, put like images in your head that you think it was?
yeah. I can't remember anything from the day of.
Wow.
But I
Even
certainly,
before?
yeah, it was in the morning, so I was on my way up to Dayton to
Okay.
skate with some friends. So
Okay.
that was a whole that's a whole past life
Yeah.
basically that we could get into.
Interesting.
Um, but it was just a normal Saturday morning
Yeah.
heading up 75, and
Okay.
I was just going to meet up with some friends in Dayton, and we were gonna go skate.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that was it.
So side question for you: when you tell like able-bodied people about that, and the reaction is generally like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." What kind of reaction? How does that make you feel
How
when
do I
someone says
react to
that?
that?
Yeah, yeah,
I try not to be too like pitiful,
yeah.
or
Right.
try not to like sink into it
Yeah.
and be like,
Exactly.
I don't know. I just tell the story as it is, and it is a pretty overwhelming like
Yeah.
event to happen and to be able to describe
Right.
what happened to me.
Right.
So there's really only certain people will react pretty much the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Solemn.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah,
oh
yeah,
man.
yeah.
What? How else can you react really? So
Right.
I just yeah, that's the way I just tell the story, and I can't help how people react.
Yeah. That's the same thing with me and spina bifida. Like tell them I had a hole in my back when I was born, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that." It's like, nah, I've been like this all my life. I'm happy. You know,
Right.
I'm living life right now the best I possibly can. So, um, yeah,
I remember, yeah, I can remember the day before, but for some reason the day before felt like longer ago. Like when someone told me what I was doing the day before, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember doing that." But for some reason it feels like way longer ago. So it
mm,
was weird kind of trying to connect the dots and try to put things back together once my consciousness was maybe lifted
yeah.
out
Oh,
of like being in a coma, which was part of it.
you were in a coma. I
I
don't think I knew that.
Part of the I guess yeah, my heart stopped beating on the side of the highway, so I had to be resuscitated
Whoa.
twice. That
Okay.
was another part of the story that's just, it was a real pile on.
Wow.
And then there was a brain injury as well. They put a bolt in my head to relieve some of the pressure.
Whoa.
The bolt got an infection,
Oh my gosh.
and that was, like a very low percent like chance of happening type of thing.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I had to recover from in the ICU. And then yeah, there was the coma, there was the lack of speech because I was on a ventilator.
Yeah.
And I'm still suffering with, some of the after effects of that, just with that's maybe why I speak weakly.
Oh, interesting.
Was and I had to have the trachea put in
Yeah.
to travel.
Yeah.
So it was really just a pile on of
Yeah.
things.
So what you were you died twice essentially, and you were put into a coma, or you got into a coma. How long were you in a coma for?
I don't know the exact details on that, but I was in the ICU for a month. I was I again, that's I don't know the
It's
exact
okay.
answer for that. But
So,
I was with it in the ICU. I have memories from being in the ICU for
okay.
that month.
Okay.
And I have yeah, probably within 3 days I was back.
You were okay. Okay. So yeah, I wasn't sure if I mean obviously being in the ICU for a month, we know it was less than a month that you were in a coma, and it
Yeah.
sounds like it's less than a week that you were in the coma.
Mhm.
Interesting. Did you almost die in the ICU at all, or
I have faint memories of like struggling to breathe
yeah,
and how that all went,
yeah.
and just kind of remembering. Well, I dreaded and I didn't understand what was going on with some of the respiratory therapy, like
Oh,
the like breathing.
yeah,
Um, I guess that's what you would call it. Like the respiratory
yeah.
person would come into the room, and I would have to like breathe through a vaporizer or whatever.
Uh-huh,
And they tried putting a CPAP on me,
uh-huh.
and I was just so out of it,
Yeah,
whether it was the medicine that I was on or just my mental state at the time. But
yeah.
I have memories of trying to like push the CPAP off of my face and not
Oh,
understanding what it was, and they
yeah.
had to like tie my hands down on the hospital bed
No
to
way.
ensure that I did not rip the CPAP off of my face
Oh my
because that
gosh.
was regulating my breathing,
So
and things like that.
so what was the moment that, by the way, I think it's kind of crazy that we've known each other since 2019, 2018, and I've not like I don't know that I've heard most of these details, and it's kind of interesting that we've never talked about it.
I guess we're in a setting where it's kind of leading to me revealing more specific details
Yeah.
about stuff like this,
Yeah,
which is really stuff I've only talked about, I guess, with close friends or whatever. But
yeah.
normally the short story is I was hit rear-ended by an impaired driver
Right.
and spent a month in the ICU, and then I slowly gained, recovered from there.
Right.
But there are a lot more specifics to it that maybe kind of flesh out the whole story and make it seem a
Sure.
little more severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the purposes of this podcast is I do want to reach out to both able-bodied and disabled people, and I, like I think one of the things that I want to reach out to people on is like, hey, you're not alone. Like everybody goes through struggles, and like I'm sure there's a lot of people going through a similar struggle that you've just that you went through. And hopefully somebody seeing this can an able-bodied person can be like, wow, like I'm grateful for my life, maybe in saying like, hey, I'm grateful that I'm healthy and I have a family and whatever else, like, but also recognize that that person might be going through something as well, and this might be able to help people find tips and tricks on how to keep rolling forward, so to
Mhm.
speak, right? And so I think I hope that people find value in that aspect. So anyway, I wanted to ask, when did you realize that you were paralyzed,
So that
if you remember?
right. You that was maybe it slowly just sort of dawned on me.
Mm.
It was never said to me outright.
Oh,
That's maybe more of like something you would see on TV. A doctor says, "You're paralyzed." Blah blah blah. It's like
yeah.
they're never that frank with you,
Mm.
which maybe is just like a doctor thing, but they seem to tiptoe around it or use different terms.
Mm.
Like you have a complete spinal cord injury.
Mm.
Complete means like the nerve
It's
that it
severed.
was severed.
Mhm.
It's not going to grow back. It's not going to connect.
Mhm.
No matter what you try, no matter how many stem cell trials you go to in San Diego,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
We can talk about that in a little bit.
it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe it dawned on me. I can remember, like, there were nurses, or I'm not even sure who this was, but I remember hearing while I was in the ICU in Dayton, a man was maybe just like turning me, because again, I've got to do all these weight shifts and things like that to keep the skin healthy.
Mhm.
And I want to say it was just like an aide
Mhm.
was speaking. I remember him speaking over my head to me because all my memories are from like laying down. And he
Mhm.
was just talking about how there was a kid in a similar situation to me that couldn't walk, and that slowly but surely he got it back in his legs, and he remembered seeing him walking down the sidewalk out in the street.
Yeah.
It was someone that he'd worked with in a similar way to me. Like he remembered being in the hospital helping him,
Yeah.
and that slowly but surely he got he got his legs back working
Oh.
again, and that was it. And then it was good, and he recovered. And then maybe that's when it sort of sunk in that I was like, okay, so I'm dealing with a big time injury here.
Yeah.
Um, and it just, yeah, that's maybe when it started to sink in.
Yeah.
But even more so, I guess I was fighting bigger battles
Oh.
in my head,
Yeah.
I guess.
Of course.
Just trying to get back to square one
Yeah.
mentally,
Yeah.
getting out of the fuzz.
Yeah.
Because I'm on a whole bunch of medicine, pain pills, things like that, whatever they had me on in the hospital to keep me going.
Right.
And I couldn't speak, which was difficult because
Yeah.
of the ventilator,
Yeah.
which caused more problems with, breathing and eating,
Yeah.
things like that. So I had this board. My dad, he made this board that just had every letter on the alphabet,
Mm-hmm.
basically like a QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah.
And I spent the first couple weeks, well, really the whole month, tapping letters on this board to spell out words
Oh, wow.
so that I could communicate.
Yeah.
And that was key because it started to get my mind working again. And I think it also let everyone else out there know that, oh, there's something going on. Like it's coming back.
Yeah.
Elliot has his
Yeah,
head's
that
back.
brain
He can
damage.
speak, and he's speaking through his
Right.
arm, which, oh, hey, that's good to see his arms moving.
Yeah.
We weren't sure about that.
Right.
And I can remember my right arm came back first because that's what I was using to tap and this and that. So I don't know if it's fortunate because I was already right-handed. I don't know
Right.
if that's why, maybe.
Right.
But I can remember when my left arm came back,
Uh-huh.
and that was just like it just woke up one day, and it was like I could slowly start moving it.
Interesting.
So I imagine it would have been a similar thing with my legs,
Yeah.
but that just never happened.
Right. Interesting. I didn't know that you just were basically paralyzed from the neck down, like, and you couldn't move your arms ever, or at some point.
I don't know. Maybe at first.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of always remember being able to move the right arm,
Yeah.
but I certainly remember with the left arm was
Mm.
a little delayed in coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah, having to communicate that way was difficult,
Right.
and that was I'm not sure. I didn't speak, so if I was injured in August, I didn't speak until November
Wow.
when they removed the trach, because putting in the trach messed with my vocal cords.
Right.
And created more problems, more
Yeah.
unforeseen events.
Right.
So that it stopped me from being able to speak while the trach was in. But when they removed the trach, it messed with more things in the throat, which made it hard for me to eat. So I could not eat
So you
following that.
did
So
you
I
have
had
like
to
a
get
food
a G
tube?
tube. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Wow. Um okay, so let's get into like rehab and recovery and stuff like that. Like what just I mean, I'll give you the floor on that, whatever you want to talk about.
So the first step was getting from Miami Valley in Dayton to Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado.
Oh.
And that is where most of my, serious recovery happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I saw the biggest improvements in function, regaining function,
Yeah.
learning things about what is going to happen in the future,
Yeah.
preparing myself for life after leaving inpatient and even the outpatient hospital there.
Yeah.
So they helped big time. Is it?
Let me get this real quick. We can move it up.
I'll tilt this down.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
So that was Craig Hospital. I have to give big shouts to Craig Hospital in Denver.
Okay.
All the people I worked with there, physical therapists, nurses, occupational therapists,
Yeah.
they really prepared me. And it's a hospital that specializes in spinal cord injury and traumatic brain injury.
Okay. Great.
I couldn't imagine recovering from my injury in any other way. And I spent 6 months there
Wow.
in Denver doing,
Okay.
recovering inpatient / outpatient.
Yeah.
And that's there was a lot more, there were more hurdles to jump there especially with my throat. I had issues there,
Mm.
recovering from getting the trach taken out.
Yeah.
and I've probably never talked to you about stuff like that.
No, no.
That goes overlooked. I would say
Yeah.
some of the toughest battles in my recovery weren't like dealing with the paralysis.
Yeah.
It was like learning how to eat again.
Right. Wow.
It was yeah, like issues with speech, um,
Oh.
the vocal cord issues, especially
Yeah.
breathing was hard. To
Wow.
get off the ventilator was difficult, and I feel
Yeah.
like I maybe benefited from doing that in a place like Denver with the altitude. Probably
Oh.
made my lungs stronger having to recover in a
Interesting.
place like that.
Oh. Huh.
Um, that's just something I don't know if that's proven or not, but it was just something that maybe I thought of.
Do you have like a story you can share of what you went through in Colorado as far as like um some struggle or maybe like I don't know.
Uh, I learned everything. I still apply the things that I learned there
Mhm.
daily. Is what
Mhm.
like with my transfers and things like that.
Yeah.
The equipment that they set me up with,
Yeah.
I learned it all there. So just I can remember the challenge of like learning. I know we already talked about this with the tennis chair, like transfers,
Mhm.
but that just seemed like an insurmountable challenge that I could never achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like succeed at figuring out how to transfer without a slide board or whatever
Right.
from the bed into my wheelchair and
Right.
get on with my day,
Right.
or move from the bed to the commode chair, which I use daily to get through like my morning routine, take a
Yeah.
shower, do whatever.
Uh-huh.
It just seemed
What's a
and
commode
the whole
chair?
so that's just like another wheelchair, but it has a hole in the bottom so that I can go to the bathroom
Yeah.
and also take a shower in it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of made of just plastic basically,
Mhm.
and then like a vinyl covered cushion
Sure.
that can it's water resistant.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have that's I guess a third chair that I have. I have that tennis chair and my day chair.
Yeah. Okay.
So daily I'll use that.
Yeah. Okay.
So they set me up with my expectations for how I'll go about daily living with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So learning how to do that independently
Yeah.
was a huge hurdle.
Right.
So that's whatever. Yeah, like bowel program
Yeah.
care,
Mhm.
intermittent catheterization,
Mhm.
things like that
Yeah.
that are vital to to day-to-day living
Right.
are things that I have to go through,
Right.
but I learned it,
Yeah.
and it's just, kind of now it's something I do every day, but it feels like it's in the past a little bit,
Yeah.
like the learning curve.
Mhm.
Because sometimes it can feel like, taking care of myself is a full-time job a little bit,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's something some people might overlook
Yeah.
or don't even think about
Yeah.
when they, from the outside looking in.
Yep.
Um, so I don't know. I try to just roll with the punches there and take it as
Yeah.
it comes.
Yeah. That's so funny. I have a shirt that says "Rolling with the Punches." By the way, and you've used that a couple
That
times. I didn't ask him to do that. Everybody, just happened. So
it's just a good line to
yeah,
use when someone asks, "Hey, how are you doing? How
yeah,
have things been?" "Oh, I'm just rolling with the punches."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, can you talk about your support system?
Yeah. Whether that's family mostly and yeah, and friends.
Hmm.
Um and the tennis community. I
Yeah,
like getting together with you all twice a week.
yeah.
That's essential. Certainly, yeah, I've definitely my family's been the biggest
So your parents are still
support.
together,
Yeah.
and you have a brother
And a sister, younger
and a
sister.
sister
Both
and a younger
younger.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see them pretty regularly, and they've seems like you have a pretty close knit family that has been there for you throughout all this.
They've been there, yeah, since the very beginning. It was our bond has just grown stronger
Yeah,
since then through the injury.
yeah,
They've my mom especially has been there every step of the way, and
that's awesome.
yeah, yeah, they've both my parents have been very helpful.
Yeah,
They've made it possible.
yeah,
Um, and that I don't know if you want to jump into No Limits, but that could be a good tie-in because
yeah.
in the wake of my injury, that was they're who started No Limits,
Uh,
which is the Spinal Cord Injury Recovery Foundation that you know was started on my behalf
yeah,
to help aid other people in similar situations to myself.
So your parents, you guys founded this nonprofit.
Correct. Um, and then yeah, there's more people on the board
Mhm.
as well, including one of my close friends.
Okay.
Um, who's all of my friends have been helpful too in the recovery.
Yeah.
They came out. Yeah, certainly I can remember seeing them all even when I was in the ICU.
Mm.
Just the outpouring of affection and support that I got from the community,
Yeah.
kind of overwhelming,
Yeah.
hard to take in
Right.
at first. I remember just like they threw this big party to support me and like I guess gets some financial aid to kind of help
Mhm.
with everything. And I can just remember seeing like how many different faces showed up to the party because they
Yeah.
recorded this video like a saying, "Hey, how are you?" while I was out in Colorado. So when
Mhm.
my dad came out for a visit one time, he showed me the video, and it was nice to see all the people that got together to support me.
Yeah.
Like so many people. It
It's
was weird.
overwhelming.
I don't want to say it felt kind of like seeing your own funeral. I
Yeah.
guess
Oh, interesting.
almost. What
Yeah.
you kind of feel like such a surreal feeling to
Yeah.
have an event, something like this happen to you
Right.
and see all the people that come out of the woodwork. I
Yeah.
mean, not like that, but it was kind of like
Right.
it was all good people just coming out to support me and show that they cared.
It's interesting. Is as bad of an experience that is like it's amazing. It restores your faith in humanity, if you will, a little bit because of how much people rally together and for to help you out and your family out as you guys go through and adjust to an injury like this. So
Yeah, there's so many kind-hearted people out there, which I think needs to be said.
yeah, I
That's the truth. And there, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I broke my wrist, and being in a wheelchair and then breaking my wrist on top of that, it was a pretty crazy thing to go through, and like I broke it, and while I was visiting a friend in Pittsburgh, and my parents actually both came up from to Pittsburgh and to drive my car back because I wasn't sure if I could drive and all that, and like there was a whole bunch of other experiences that like there was just so much positive that came from it. Obviously, it was a shitty experience or a bad experience, but like you know, it was. There's a lot of good that's mixed into it.
Sure. And it was one of the people that came out to support me and help was a friend of my grandma's
Mm-hmm.
who her son was in had a spinal cord injury. I can't remember the details of the whole thing, but he has ended up recovering at Craig Hospital. So it
Mm.
was her who relayed the information to my grandma, who forwarded that to my parents, who said, "Hey, maybe take a look at this hospital, this rehab facility,
Oh,
and start your recovery there." And so we did, of course, and of course it was
yeah,
the place was top of the pops.
yeah,
So kind of learning having the support from people who you don't know, but
right.
when something like this happens, it's the news spreads
Mm-hmm.
and good people come out to support. And I think that maybe was the crux for starting No Limits was it's easy to get overwhelmed with a lack of knowledge or resources or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Um, so we need to try to, when someone is newly injured or in a situation like mine, reach out with resources and provide
Mm.
information, something that can maybe help lessen the burden
Yeah,
because it can be very overwhelming.
yeah,
I was kind of just an audience member to the whole thing. It was all happening to me,
right.
but the big decisions were being made not by me.
Yeah,
Where I was going next, that was all happening
right,
outside of me. I wasn't capable of making those decisions.
right, right,
So I'm thankful that I ended up where I did,
right.
and that I had the support from the people
Yeah,
closest to me, and they were
yeah,
looking out for me in
yeah,
a good way.
yeah.
And that's I think what No Limits wants to do is to continue to help people
Yeah,
in a
that's
good way.
awesome. Um, do you have any stories of how you've reached out to people or anything like that? Like where and maybe even share like where people can go to like help support you and stuff like that.
Um, yeah, we've helped a number of people, mostly local, which I think we want to do, but we can
Yeah.
always broaden that scope.
Mhm.
Um, one person, one young boy in particular sticks out in my mind that we've helped, who was he was in a tragic car accident. Without getting into too many details, there was a lot going on, and he was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old,
Mm.
and so he couldn't really wrap his head. He had no real framework to put it in. It just happened to him, and I can remember meeting him, um, and we bonded over drawing. We met at a Frisch's with him and his grandma and
Yeah.
my parents. We got together to meet him for the first time,
Yeah.
um, and we bonded over like drawing on the placemats,
Oh,
and that was
yay.
fun.
That's
So
awesome.
and then we ended up contributing some money to get him a bed,
Uh,
like a sleep number bed, so that
yeah.
he could something good for him to sleep on, so it's
Yeah.
safe for his skin, and that he wouldn't have to worry about
Right.
like pressure sores or things like that
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the things that we would do as No Limits, is to help with resources, things like that.
Mhm.
And it's good. I remember sending him. He was doing some rehab down in Louisville, and I remember sending him some art supplies so that he could
Oh, yay.
kind of keep himself busy that way, and like
Yeah.
draw. I sent him some drawing paper and markers and some pens and
Yeah.
things like that. So
Yeah.
I'd
What
I'd like to reach back out to him and see how things are. It's been a
Yeah.
couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That you should. That's awesome. What advice would you give to somebody who's newly injured?
I would say stay motivated,
Mm. Yeah.
stay focused. I set goals.
Mm.
Don't let it overwhelm you. I just said a
Yeah.
lot right there, but I don't know. Having small goals set,
Right.
having maybe if you can't set them yourself, having a physical therapist set them for you,
Yeah.
maybe to kind of put a framework around your recovery.
Yeah.
Um, because I remember having a physical therapist in Denver who was really focused me
Mm.
on recovering with all that physical therapy stuff. So that's like with the transfers, moving around, getting dressed, things like that. Really
Mhm.
difficult stuff physically
Yeah.
that I couldn't really do. It wasn't capable of doing.
Yeah.
But little by little, by setting goals,
Yeah.
staying motivated,
Yeah.
not really wallowing.
Yeah.
There was no time to wallow, I think, is another
Really?
thing that I benefited from recovering out there.
Oh,
It felt
okay.
like from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, it was like there was a regiment.
Yeah.
Everything was scheduled, and things were kind of moving forward towards a point
Right.
of a successful recovery, or at
Yeah.
least setting myself for success once I get out of the hospital.
Interesting.
Um, I could see very easily you get injured, you leave the hospital, you're home,
You just lay in bed all day.
boom. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, and then the other thing is like a lot of the things that you were doing before, I think you mentioned skating, like you can't do that anymore.
That was right, and that was always something that was difficult to grasp, to
Mhm.
kind of to come to terms with.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's obvious to say. You can, people you can imagine, finding out you're paralyzed and being like
Yeah.
just overwhelmed with like how terrible that is.
Yeah.
It's like a worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Um, but again, the support from my friends, I think, helped
Yeah.
kind of lessen, the severity of that.
Yeah. A-
Um,
and you kind of found a different path. Like, yeah, I mean, you were forced to find a different path, but like you found tennis and all that. So, um, can you talk a bit about how like tennis has really helped? I mean, shape you and
yeah,
all that.
there's definitely, I can see the differences in me before the injury and after,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't. Yeah, it's different. It's a different me. It's a different version of me, but I think that there's still the
Sure.
same bits of me at heart, just
Yeah.
doing new things with
Yeah.
the same motivation and mentality.
Yeah.
luckily tennis was something, and I think this is why I was attracted to trying it
Mm-hmm.
and playing it and continue to play it now, is that it's pretty similar relatively to what I was able to do before I was injured.
Yeah.
It's a sport I can play independently. Once I'm on the court, it's just me.
Yeah.
It's a sport I can play independently without having to worry about any help from anyone else. I don't have to depend on getting pushed around or, at least I can tape the racket to my hand. I mean, that's just one small
Yeah.
adaptation that makes it possible. So
Right.
I can't feel bad about doing that. Like,
Right.
no, it's either I tape my hand and play tennis, or I don't tape my hand and I can't play tennis.
Yeah.
It's just out of the question.
Yeah.
So I see it as just it's just necessary.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'll continue to play tennis, I think, until I can't.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I can remember being very relieved and having a moment that I shared with my mom in the hospital where I was just thankful to have my arms.
Oh.
So I think that was another way of coming to terms with it,
Yeah.
is maybe just reframing how you think about
Yeah.
being grateful for what you have and
Yeah.
not what you don't.
Right.
Because, like, I was just so happy
Yeah.
to have my arms
Right.
working
Oh.
because that could get me going and
Yeah.
moving. I could wallow and think about my legs,
Yeah.
but I just don't think that would get me anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
I was just happy to have my arms. So, of course, I'm going to try to do something with them. And
Yeah.
tennis was the sport.
Yeah.
Um,
So certainly, I mean, you had some low points. I mean, everybody has low points, right? But like from a wallowing and self pity standpoint, like you mentioned that you couldn't, but I mean, certainly there were days where you got up and you're like, man, this sucks.
still,
Yeah.
everyone wallows. I mean, it's kind
Sure.
of just natural, but
Yeah.
yeah, you'll wake up and be like, man, I just am so disabled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, I just am feeling it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not clicking today. Like,
Yeah. I mean, even if
you just feel it.
even it takes a little bit longer to get dressed in the morning and ready and all that and
Yeah, the effort it takes
mhm.
to put on pants.
Yeah.
That was a learning curve on itself on its own. Was
S-
just learning how to do that.
So let's get into the theme question, the theme podcast question of what keeps you rolling forward.
I I don't know. This would be off topic completely from what we're talking about.
That's okay.
I'm not even sure it's a good answer
Okay.
because we hadn't really talked about some of just like my interests or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just think about like music
Oh.
in general
Okay.
and the significance it's had on my life
Yeah.
and how it's like the one constant thing throughout my life that's given me joy,
Really interesting.
and it never fails.
Oh.
It never lets me down. Like music, listening to music,
Yeah.
I play a little. I don't play any instruments, but I try to make music just as like a
Yeah.
therapeutic thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it continues to live up to the hype. New
Mm.
music, old
Yeah.
music, finding new stuff.
Yeah.
It never lets me down. So I just continue to. I mean, it has nothing to do with anything we've been talking about, but it makes
That's
me
okay.
happy, and I like that.
Yeah.
So let's just say music.
Yeah. Well, so do you like do you wake up in the morning and then put on music and go to bed with music and
Just about, it's part of my morning routine for sure. I'll put on
interesting.
like something new I'm listening to every morning
Yeah.
and listen to that.
What are you currently listening to?
Um, I listened to a new album from this band called Fat Evil Children
Okay.
yesterday.
Is this a kid friendly band or family friendly maybe?
Sure, I think
Okay.
it's safe. There's no parental guidance
Okay,
stamped
okay.
on their album cover,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's just I'm always looking for new stuff, and I've got friends that I'll share music with all the time.
Yeah.
I even have this like group chat music playlist
Mhm.
thing that I didn't start it, but a friend of mine did, and we all share songs
Oh. I
to
did
each other, and it's like a it's not competitive, even though it's called like music league.
Yeah.
But we'll have a category of a like a song, something that you would want to enter, and
Yeah.
you just put your song in the mix,
Huh.
and then we all listen to the playlist, and then like give points to the songs that we like
Yeah.
or don't like,
Huh.
and just kind of share our music that way.
I didn't know how much of a music junkie you were. Like
Yeah, you
I knew you
probably was.
liked listen like we've talked podcasts and stuff like that, but I don't think I've really heard you talk much about your music interests and all that.
Yeah, I guess there's never been the chance to. I know we have talked about
Yeah.
podcast as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, of
We
course, I'll listen to podcasts in the morning too.
yeah.
That's something that just works well with my morning routine. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like
It's
the morning bowel program. I've got to get through that, so it
yeah,
helps having a podcast on in the background.
right.
Um, but then the rest of the morning is pretty much just like music or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting cuz like we've traveled to tournaments together and like a lot of the things that we talk about are, I mean, you know, when you come help me in the studio, we're talking studio stuff, and when we're at the tennis tournament, we're like, all right, watch how that guy swings, and just talking different strategies and stuff like that. So, you know what, one of the benefits from a podcasting standpoint that I never realized um was I thought I was doing this to get a message out to the world and get other people's message heard and stuff like that. But like, you know, this is the first time that you and I have sat down and gotten pretty deep into things. One of the first times, I suppose, and it's it's really awesome just hearing your story and all that. And then the other thing, I had somebody after one of the podcasts the next day, he goes, "Hey man, I thanks. I really needed that." And I was like, "Whoa!" Like I like, yeah, I do want to impact the people around me as well, but like I didn't. That was an unforeseen thing, and the more I'm doing this, the more I'm like, that's really cool, and it just gives me more of a reason as to like why I'm doing this and all that. So, um, okay,
Yeah.
so we're at about an hour and 7. I do wanna to ask you a few more things. Um, I wanna do, like, a rapid fire, and I usually mix this in earlier on in the podcast, but, we got to talking, and I think we got to talking about some really cool things, so, these are a little bit more lighthearted, so, can you share a joke that you like, or just a corny joke that you know?
So this was a joke I wrote myself as like an elementary schooler, and it's just one
Oh,
that's always stuck with me
okay.
because it was my own.
Yeah?
And it's like, what did the skinny dipper say, or what did the elephant say to the skinny dipper?
What?
Where's your trunks?
Ah, where's your trunks? That's good. You made that up
I
in
made that up.
elementary
I
school?
think I made that.
Wow.
Unless someone's gonna say I didn't.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah,
they'll say,
yeah.
"Oh no, that was so and so's joke."
Yeah,
But no,
right.
that was just like a joke I thought of,
Huh,
and I've
that's
always
cool.
kind of it's just always been a joke of mine.
Huh. I'm not that creative. I can't think of my own jokes. Well, I guess I've thought of, like, several wheelchair jokes and stuff like that, and I've thought about the shirts, like, one of the shirts that I have on the rolling forward dot printful dot me is you know what I can't stand dot dot dot, and then it's you know what comma I can't stand,
All right.
and then it says punctuation matters.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's I feel like that's been done before, but that's something that I thought of. So okay, rapid fire, forehand or backhand,
Forehand,
singles or doubles,
doubles,
morning practice or evening practice.
evening.
We haven't really done
I
many
haven't
morning
done the whole thing.
practices.
I'm more of an evening. Yeah, I
Mm,
kind of peak in the evening.
yeah, maybe you have to play in the morning, but that's about it. Favorite sports movie, if you have one.
Good question. Let's just say the Bad News Bears.
Okay. Go-to pump up song before a match.
Nothing comes to mind. Let's
Really?
say
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess
What about
I'm thinking
genre?
about pumping myself up before a match.
I
I don't know if I
assume you listen to
do
music before a match, right?
before a match. I don't know. Yeah, I'm talking about music. I'm hyping up
Yeah.
music and all this, but I don't know if I do to pump myself up. I guess it would have to be something up. something upbeat. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Maybe this is
Some
the missing link to make you like the best you possibly can be.
to
You
send
need
me over
like
the top.
15, 20 minutes of just
No,
listening to pump up music.
I never like wore the beats into like to play a sport. Like
Yeah,
I was never like had the headphones in like, oh, it's game time.
yeah.
I can remember like playing soccer. I went through a phase in high school where like dubstep was cool.
Okay, okay.
I can't say I still listen to dubstep, but I remember being really into listening to dubstep like as a junior in high school.
Interesting.
And like that was on the warm up CD for like high school soccer, and that was a big
Yeah.
deal to
Okay,
be
okay.
hyped on dubstep.
When I was doing wheelchair tennis as a junior, we there were three of us and a coach that went to, I think it was the Italy trip to the World Team Cup to compete for the U.S. and against different countries. But our coach told us that we had to make a CD, and it was a burn CD that we all liked, all the songs, and like one of them was like "We Will Rock You," one of the songs, and there's a bunch of other songs. I still have the CD, and it's that tends to be like one of my CDs that are like just a few of those songs have been like kind of my pump up songs, just because it brings back some like nostalgia, and it's just like, all right, let's get it.
I had a similar CD like that. Jock jams is what they're
Oh
called.
yeah, yeah,
And
I remember
so
those.
I had, yeah, like Sandstorm, Darude,
Mhm,
Zombie Nation,
mhm.
the
Yeah,
Hay song, Gary Glitter.
yeah. M Feel free to answer this or not, but what's one word that describes your approach to life? I don't know that I could answer this.
Yeah. What's a synonym for like steadiness?
Mm,
S-
I can totally see that. Yeah, consistency.
Consistency, I guess.
Yeah, that was one of the words that I
Yeah,
was thinking of
maybe
as
not
well.
even. Yeah, consistency can maybe seem almost too ritualistic. I'm not like
Yeah,
super ritual. I guess I have a routine,
yeah,
but I'm not like ritualistic
yeah.
about it.
But you
But I
are,
don't want to be too rigid.
yeah, same. Like
But
you
something
want
about
spontaneity and all that.
steadiness. Steadiness implies like strength,
Yeah,
stability,
yeah.
maybe. So
Uh-huh.
let's go with that.
Okay, yeah. Um, I will say that you're a pretty reliable person. Like you always come to practice, and if you can't, you'll let me know. And like when we decide to meet here and do studio stuff, like I know that you're not gonna be like bail on me last minute or something like that, unless there's an emergency, But
Sure. I try not to be flaky.
yeah. Um, all right. So anything else that you want to share? Do you want to give your nonprofit another shout out
Yeah,
or
did we give enough of that out? The No Limits Spinal Cord Injury Recovery Foundation.
yeah.
The website is nolimitsspinalinjury.org. So it's a full on nonprofit.
Say that again.
Nolimitsspinalinjury.org.
Okay. Great.
Um, all
It,
the information's there. There's a donate link as well.
yeah. Okay.
Um, we have an annual fundraiser golf outing event,
Yeah.
usually the first week of October.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's always a good yearly thing to raise money.
Yep. Yep. We
Um,
we have golf.
what
The Cincinnati Tennis Foundation has a golf outing probably around the
mm,
same time, probably like a couple weeks, I think before probably, but actually I think we're about to have ours in May this year. So
maybe it changed.
at the end of May. I
I
don't
know
know.
Matt has mentioned it in the past, and
Mhm.
we've either been unavailable or yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we know that that's going on.
Right. Right, right. But yeah, it's been an awesome time, awesome journey. Is there anything else that you want to shout out or talk about before we call it?
Just know that it's good. We enjoy helping out the Cincinnati tennis tournament here in
Yeah.
town.
Yep.
We'll support travel expenses for players.
Mhm.
That's one of the good things that we'll do. We look
Yeah.
forward to doing it again this summer.
Yeah.
Look forward to playing in it,
Yeah.
and then hopefully do some more travel to play as well this summer.
Yeah, we need
And
to
maybe
talk
you'll
about
tag
that.
along. We can talk off camera
Yeah,
maybe, because there
yeah,
is something
yeah.
I have to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk off camera for sure. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining us today on the Rolling Forward podcast. If you like what you heard, hit that like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I want to hear what keeps you rolling forward. Or if you have my next T-shirt idea, or perhaps something you heard today that stuck with you. I'm for it all. If you want to see more T-shirts like the one I'm wearing, unfortunately, it's not that this one's not there. I got this on Amazon, but you can find my designs over at rollingforward.printful.me. And if you got a story worth sharing and fits the theme of what we're doing here, I'd love to hear from you. You could be my next guest. Until next time, keep rolling forward. Okay, bye. You want to say okay, bye too?
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye, everyone. Thank you.